Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your OBC, your original Boruto Chief Naruto Explained, bringing you guys the long overdue Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 29 official spoilers via the Naruto official website. And Kawaki fans, you guys are definitely going to be eating. The chapter comes out on the 18th this month instead of the 20th like usual, both because of the December release for V-Jump magazine being earlier than normal and due to the fact that Jump Festa is happening relatively soon, I believe this weekend or next weekend. That's where Shueisha announces updates and news for their IP. Not really expecting anything massive for Boruto this year, but if there's a Boruto or Naruto update, I'll obviously bring you guys the news. Now, as per usual, now that the official spoilers out via the sneak peek, we are on spoiler watch, and the V-Jump magazine cover this month has leaked out in high quality, which normally means we get full details about the chapter 24 hours later via text leaks or just outright raw scans. So if anything leaks out, I will update you guys, and as per usual, expect the review 2 days after the official release or whenever the full leaks come out, whichever happens first, because the review editor needs 2 days to get the review done and maintain the quality that you guys have seen with the other 2 Blue Vortex chapter reviews. We don't care about being the first one to get the review up, but that video each month gets a lot of love put into it on the editing, and we want that to stay consistent. Also, this is the second uploaded video today. The first was episode 4 of the new series on the channel called the Naruto Net Worth series, and that video focused on Orochimaru. We've covered Minato, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and now Orochimaru. Playlists containing those videos will be linked in the description box, and the newest video will be in the end credits. Finally, on the back half of this video, I got something important I want to address. I want to address that fake leak that came out, that freak out that I've seen online, and my emails and DMs have been getting completely blown up of people that were scared that the chapter was getting canceled this month. So clip that part out for anyone you know who has been absolutely worried. And there were a lot of people that have been panicking. So with the monthly maintenance out of the way, let's look at the official spoilers this month. Based on the official spoilers, Kawaki's back in action and he's preparing to battle Mamushi, and I want to take time to point out why this is pretty significant. We know based on the last chapter that it wasn't going to be Boruto who was headed out there to battle Mamushi on the front lines. Or to re-clarify, Boruto was not going to fight Mamushi alone. Both Boruto and Kawaki were the primary ones who were to engage with Mamushi, though Team 10 and Himawari were meant to head out to a different section of the village to engage in a coordinated battle. But primarily, the purpose of Boruto and Kawaki was to hit the front lines, dispatch of the Mamushi clones, and both were to provide backup and support where absolutely needed. And the role of the Konoha shinobi, which that includes Kawaki, is to act as a deterrence to the hostile shinobi inside the village who will try to use this as an opportunity to attack Boruto. However, last chapter we also saw that Kawaki, he was on the medical table where Amato typically does upgrades on Kawaki, and each time Amato has updated him, Kawaki has had his jacket off, even going back to part 1 of the story, which means that the Kawaki we're seeing now is even more powered up than when he fought against Jura. This is important for the following reason. Kawaki isn't just fighting against what we can presume to be Mamushi here, but he's outright in a battle position to use full power. Kalma Seal fully amped, and he is using his power to create a chakra rod to use as a staff, likely summoning from that Daikokuden dimension to go into battle. The reason why this is pretty huge is that it speaks to the threat level that Kawaki is dealing with currently. This is Kawaki who just told Amato a day earlier in the timeline to power him up even further because he believed with more power he would be able to kill Jura. Whatever enhancements that got made to Kawaki's ninja tech are in place right now, and the fact that he's having to use Kalma to battle Jura's minion is basically an upscale for Mamushi here and also for Jura, but it also indirectly upscales Boruto, who is now using Kalma, because we're going to have a very clear set of data to compare here with Kawaki and Boruto. Each is using Kalma to fight the same enemy. The only difference here being is potentially the number of clones that Mamushi's made, which is important because the more clones he makes, while they are at full power, whereas shadow clones split the chakra evenly by the amount of clones that you're making, they do get dumber as a result, which makes them more primal, which should make them easier to defeat, which is why Team 10 being sent out there as a result is something that basically puts the brains versus brawn aspect on display. However, we don't know if Kawaki is going to be facing down a whole throng of Mamushi clones. He might be facing one, he might be facing 100, which would explain the need for the Karma Seal here. And if he can pull a Jigen and summon a bunch of chakra rods in one go, he could do massive damage on a wide scale pretty quickly and in a targeted manner. And Kawaki being in the air, it does kind of allude he might do something like that. But it is interesting when you think about it, because despite both Kawaki and Jigen being vessels of Ishiki, they have different fighting styles when you break down how they fight, with Jigen being a lot more surgical versus Kawaki being someone who goes for the more ruthless approach and he seeks to end things quickly, whereas Jigen played around out of his love for battle. Kawaki is a lot more like Sasuke or Itachi. He looks for the fastest way to eliminate the threat, but Kawaki almost feels like he purposely doesn't use battle aspects and strategies that Jigen did, as if it's a middle finger to Ishiki himself, as to say, I'm using your power, but I'm not going to fight exactly like you. Now, there are some overlaps, obviously. Kawaki has the Karma Seal of Ishiki, so things like Sukuna Hikona and Daikokuden, they do get used, but outside of one or two uses of those specific powers, there isn't a full overlap in battle. And it does make me wonder if there's more intention here on the part of Ikimoto. This is something that I've wondered even more about due to the fact that as part of Kawaki's design change in the time skip, we see that Kawaki is wearing the Konoha Shinobi headband as a belt buckle. We don't see Kawaki use ninjutsu, but so far in Two Blue Vortex, we've seen a small shift in how he battles. He's not, for instance, summoning the chakra disruption cubes to attack his enemies like we saw when he battled Boruto both times, and he's used his ninja tech less in fights of part 2 in terms of the overall volume that he's used them in versus what you saw in part 1 where he used ninja tech a lot more. He used them briefly in part 2, but the overall volume is down more, which given how intentional Ikimoto is something that I am curious about moving forward. And the rest of the chapter is going to be interesting to lay witness to, and that brings me to the chapter itself and all this fear stuff I've seen online I want to address. Which, speaking of the fear, my god, I'm so disappointed right now because the Boruto community's low-key kind of turned into being reliant when it comes to discussions on, well, gotta wait for the new chapter to drop, nothing to talk about. Never mind the fact that Naruto is a lore pit, Boruto is added to the lore. There's a lot of room for discussions and dissections and some more stuff. The community's become way too dependent on we need leaks and sneak peeks and the chapter material. It's really disappointing, but let's just get to the big part here, the meat and potatoes, the main event, if you will. So I've gotten 30 emails on my business accounts and I've gotten DMs on my social media, people saying the chapter got canceled or they're worried that the chapter isn't finished on time because the sneak peek ran late. Typically, the way that the sneak peeks for Boruto and Dragon Ball Super, both running at V-Jump magazine, the way they've been done is 6 days before the official release, Boruto will release the official spoiler of a page and then days later release another, and Dragon Ball Super will release the first 6 or 7 pages of uninked storyboards for the chapter. It's all meant to hype out fans for the official release. This month, however, Boruto ran late, this time missing the upload date by 3 days. And people, they freaked out. The short answer is whoever is the admin for the official Naruto website, more likely than not, got the dates mixed up. It happens. It's happened before, meaning this isn't the first chapter that is run behind. However, that brings me to another concern, which is a bunch of people spreading this nonsense that the chapter got canceled this month, and I want to use this as an educational moment here. Let's ignore the fact that Manga Plus literally tells us each month the date of the next chapter. as does Viz Media's Shonen Jump app. Both are free to use. And let's ignore that the dates on both of those apps never changed in the days before the sneak peek got released today. If the chapter would have been delayed, there would have been an announcement well in advance of this, not when the magazines have already been printed up last week and being sent out to stores in Japan this week. Furthermore, the way that manga is done, there's an entire process. We're at Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 29 coming out. Ikimoto is not sitting in his office right now going, what do I draw now for chapter 30? Why? Chapter 30 has already been storyboarded and approved by Kishimoto, who checks the Nemu, which is the storyboard, and the editor assigned to Boruto. Both these men meet with Ikimoto twice a month when it comes to the work of the series. That has been the process ever since Boruto was first published in Weekly Shonen Jump as a special monthly manga back in 2016. What Ikimoto is doing right now is probably a drawing for Jump Festa, since that is coming up, and also the storyboards for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 31 or 32. His assistants, which he has had assistants since 2018, directly stated by Ikimoto's editor, which I have to throw that out there because back in 2016 and early 2017, he didn't have assistants, and for good reason. He literally had the Boruto movie storyboards to reference because he was redrawing the movie as a manga and there were not a lot of changes that were made. So half the work was already done, but his assistants are doing inking for chapter 30. And he is likely working on the storyboards to present for chapter 31 or chapter 32. Typically, the rule of thumb for a monthly manga, especially those in a publication like V-Jump Magazine or Jump Square, where you know each month what the release of the magazine is, they're typically 2 to 6 chapters ahead when you look at whatever chapter is getting ready to run in the magazine. That's different than a weekly manga where it's anywhere from 1 chapter ahead up to 3 chapters ahead, which is something that is extremely well scheduled if you're 3 chapters ahead. That goes down to both the editors for the weekly manga wanting to have some flexibility for the next chapter, especially for newer series, because they factor in reader surveys, which is basically reflected in the table of contents. That is information taken directly from readers in Japan. That gets factored in case there needs to be something that needs to get changed in the upcoming chapter or redrawn, or something needs to be scrapped so that they can spark more interest in readers to get a higher boost in the popularity in the table of contents. Weekly manga is brutal. You have writing, storytelling, meetings with editors, drawings, inking, research, toning, revisions, all on a tight window. Someone like Oda or Hiro Mashima being 2 to 3 chapters ahead, that is a fucking unicorn. Both of those men are workaholics and both of them are very meticulous. Whereas someone like Gege Akutami from Jujutsu Kaisen being 1 chapter ahead is typically the norm, versus someone like the late Akira Toriyama would put his assistant through hell. He only had 1 assistant because Toriyama would wait until literally 48 hours before the chapter is due and go, hey, ink the chapter, and wouldn't bother to replenish supplies. Which is why Super Saiyan has blonde hair, because it was supposed to have black hair. He didn't have the ink. The assistant didn't have time to get ink for it to meet the deadline, so they just didn't fill it in. Because Toriyama would play video games and he would watch movies. I said to say this, with monthly manga, the schedules, they're more forgiving. That's why you'll hear someone like Ikimoto say he prefers a monthly manga, because the schedule is better. But the benefits are that the story arcs are planned further in advance. You have more time to talk with your editor and to spitball. And in a publication like V-Jump, you know you're getting 40 pages each month to tell your story. A very rare case of being 6 months ahead, which that is also a unicorn, is something like Attack on Titan, which was also a monthly manga, where Isayama had entire chapters already planned out, approved, and partially completed 6 months before the release due to how organized he was, and also due to the fact he was extremely young for a mangaka and was desperate to prove himself. We know Boruto likely is not 6 months ahead because Ikimoto rightfully takes a trip to Disney World in Japan each month in order to relax, which, given he's been in the manga industry for over 30 years, working as an assistant on a gag manga in 1995 and in 1996, winning awards in the 90s for his manga one-shot that appeared in Weekly Shonen Jump, getting his own manga published as a monthly manga for 2.5 years, then becoming an assistant briefly on another gag manga before he became Kishimoto's lead assistant from 1999 to 2014, then drawing Boruto's manga from 2016 to current day. The guy rightfully takes a break each month because he's not a hungry newbie mangaka. The chapter was not canceled. The chapter we're about to get was already approved well before this month and was completed before this. The only thing really left was doing the inking and the toning, which Ikimoto's own editor said Ikimoto's assistants helped, though Ikimoto, much like Oda, is very hands-on like crazy in this aspect, and due to being a traditionalist who hand draws everything and does not use any digital tools like his peers or even his mentor Kishimoto, it takes a little longer, but the chapters are done in advance. So next time someone says that the chapter got canceled because something's running late, refer them to this video, especially if there's not an official announcement. Reminder, the review will be out 2 days or so after the official, or I get full leaks, since the editor does need time to maintain the quality of the reviews. Could I edit the video myself? Yes, my own editing is limited. There's a clear quality difference between a video like this and the reviews that you get for Two Blue Vortex, or the Naruto net worth video you see here on the left that you can click, or the new Spy Family video that you can click on the right that's on my Anime Explained channel.